Hello, all my continuously creative friends. Welcome back to Donna's Design Threads and our daily 2 o'clock Facebook Live. And thank you for joining me. And I want to talk today some more about needles. Yesterday we talked all about hand needles and different things that you need, different types of needles that you need for different kinds of work. And also the same is true when you're putting needles in your sewing machine. Sewing machine needles should be changed fairly frequently, depending on how much you sew. If you're doing a lot of sewing, you probably want to maybe change your needle out like once a week or so. They do, the sharpness of them wears out after a while. And they can also develop like little burrs on them. And especially if you get a lot of your thread breaking a lot, change your needle. That's always the first thing that I would do. So most of the time when I'm sewing on my sewing machine, I'm piecing quilts together. And I have found the best needle for doing that it's made by Superior. They're a titanium needle, a size 12. And this is different than the hand needles. The smaller the number, the smaller the diameter of the needle is. So if you're doing something heavyweight like canvas or duck cloth or jean material, that kind of thing, then you're going to want a larger number, at least like a 16. I think they might make an 18 as the biggest, but for piecing regular quilting cottons together, a size 12 is really nice, and you want it to be really sharp. The reason that I like these ones by Superior is they seem to help me with my accuracy of my 1/4 inch seam by just being a really nice, sharp point on those needles. So those are my favorites for piecing quilts together. If I'm putting on a binding, I will probably use a little bit heavier one because you're going through a lot of thicknesses of fabric. So maybe a 14. It does really matter what kind of needle you have in your machine, depending on what kind of fabric you have as well. If you're doing something real sheer and lightweight, then you're going to want to go a lot smaller, like a 10. I think it might even go down to an 8. If you want to sew on knit fabrics, then you want to get a stretch, one that says stretch on it, or one that says for knits or for jersey type fabric. That's another kind of a knit. So those needles have a ball point instead of a really sharp needle, because when you're sewing on knit fabrics, you don't want to break those fibers because you can get a run in it. So the ball tip needle will just go through the fibers of the knit fabric, kind of between the fibers, instead of puncturing them and going through them. So be sure if you're sewing on knit fabric that you're using a ballpoint needle. And then you can get even fancier from there. If you're using metallic threads, there's metallic needles. They even have mostly in the ballpoint. I think you can get them in the sharps too, but you can get a twin needle. If you've ever noticed, like on the bottom of a t-shirt or a knit fabric, that it's got like 2 rows of stitching. A twin needle, it has just one shank at the top to put in your machine, and then it has the 2 separate needles. So you do have to have an extra thread holder, but you thread both of your threads through, and it will pick up, both of those threads will pick up on the bottom thread, and you'll get a really nice clean double row of top stitching, which is really nice if you don't have to go through it twice, and if they don't line up, you've got wavy lines. So a ball or a double twin needle can really help with that. I don't think I can think of any other type of sewing machine needles, but it is important to change your needle frequently. I do have this little pocket guide too that I use as a resource. Sometimes it tells you all the different kinds of needles, and it even, if on this particular brand, this one's made by Schmetz, I think you can get those at most local quilting stores, but they actually color code their needles. So sometimes, you take a needle out and you don't put it right back in the case that it came out of to remember that was one for jeans or that was a knit one. That color guide can kind of help a lot too. So yesterday I wanted to also talk about pins and didn't get a chance to because I was so long-winded on talking about the hand sewing needles. So just want to back up a little bit to that and talk about straight pins. It is important to pin, of course, when you're sewing, helps hold your two pieces together and keep them from shifting. So I have found a nice thin needle goes through the fabric a lot easier. Again, like I said yesterday, with getting something a little more high quality is definitely worth the investment. So some of my favorite ones, these are little, I don't have the package anymore, but these are little glass heads. I do definitely like the glass head pins so that if I have something pinned and I need to go to the iron, I don't have to worry about that head melting. So these ones I think are made by Clover. And they're just a really nice, thin, straight pin part on it. Goes through the fabric really nice and easy. Then I did find these at Joann's. I think they're made by Dritz. And again, they have I'm going to have to just kind of show them to you like this. I just pulled out a few out of my pin cushion. These look kind of like the Clover ones, but they are longer. I'll show you the two together. And I like the longer ones when I'm pinning seams together. It seems to have a little bit more bite to it to get through all of my fabrics. So I do like those as well when I found those. This cute little company, these are really kind of pricey pins. Are made in Japan. They're Little House, and they're little like the Clover ones too, and they're super smooth. Most quilt stores will have these. They're kind of a premier type of pin. Those are really fun. And then, of course, my mom had to send me these because they put them in this cute little glass jar. So those are just fun to have around. Then you can get these. I haven't even quite opened yet, but these are little teeny tiny glass head applique pins. If you're doing, those are really handy if you're pinning down your applique pieces. You don't want these big long hunkin' pins sticking out. And so you catch your thread or your fingers, needles or pins can be dangerous things. My husband's always so worried that I'm going to drop a pin somewhere and he's going to step on it or sit on it. But I'll tell you, I've been hooked by his fish hooks before. I'd rather be hooked by a pin any day. Here's another little specialty. These again are made by Clover. These are called a fork pin. So you can see how it's got the little loop at the top and the two little things coming down. And those are really handy for when you're trying to match up seams and you get them nice, perfectly matched up. You can put this fork pin in it and a pin will go on each side of the seam. So those are another little specialty fun item that can just make your piecing a little bit smoother and easier. So those are my takes on needles for the sewing machine and on some pins. And I've enjoyed being with you guys today. Please join me again. I probably will take a break tomorrow for Easter. We're going to do up a big Easter dinner here and watch an Easter service on television since we can't go anywhere. So you guys have a great holiday. I will see you back on Monday at 2 o'clock. Remember to be continuously creative. Bye.